My dad made me homeless at 18. Now he's begging me for $80,000. I'm 24 female. And when I turned 18, my dad sat me down and told me I had 1 week to move out because his new wife wanted a fresh start. And apparently, that fresh start didn't include me. I thought he was joking at first until he started packing my things into trash bags and leaving them by the front door. I begged him to let me stay until college started because I had nowhere to go, but he told me I was an adult now and needed to figure life out on my own. For the next 2 months, I slept in my car, showered at a cheap gym, worked 2 jobs, and cried myself to sleep almost every night, wondering how a parent could do that to their own child. Eventually, I saved enough money to rent a tiny apartment, and years later I built a successful online business that completely changed my life. By 24, I owned my own house, had a nice car, and was making more money than anyone in my family ever had. I completely cut contact with my dad and honestly forgot he even existed until last month when I got a call from a random number. I answered and immediately heard my dad crying. He told me his wife had left him for another man. He lost his job, and their house was about to be taken by the bank. Then he asked me for $80,000 and said, "We're family, and you owe me after everything I've done for you." I actually started laughing because I thought it had to be some kind of joke. I reminded him that he made his own teenage daughter homeless and left me to survive alone. He got quiet, and suddenly another voice grabbed the phone. It was my younger half-brother apologizing over and over. He told me our dad spent years telling him that I abandoned the family because I was selfish and that I never wanted anything to do with him. He had no idea I was kicked out. I invited my brother to dinner the next day and showed him old texts, receipts, and messages proving exactly what happened. He started crying when he realized our dad had lied to him his entire life. 2 weeks later, right after he turned 18, he packed his bags and moved into my house. Now, my dad tells everyone I stole his son and ruined his life, but the truth is he lost both of his children all by himself.
I found my wife cheating on our honeymoon. Now her family says I abandoned her. Am I the asshole? I married my college sweetheart after 8 years as a couple. Everything seemed flawless. During our honeymoon in the Bahamas, we had a minor dispute because she kept messaging someone and concealing her device. She accused me of being overly jealous. The following morning, I awoke by myself. She was missing. Her luggage was gone. Her identification was missing. No message. Nothing. I freaked out and contacted the authorities. Her relatives flew in. Everyone believed she had been taken. For 3 days, nobody could locate her. Then I received a message request on Facebook. It was from a complete stranger. She sent me images of my spouse at a different resort with another guy. It turns out she had covertly invited her ex to the same location. Her scheme was to spend half the honeymoon with me, then leave and escape with him. But here's the twist. Her ex was unaware she had tied the knot. He assumed I was her harmful ex-boyfriend she was fleeing from. When he learned the truth, he tossed her out of the resort. She had exhausted her finances because she used up all her money on his flight. She rang me in tears and pleaded with me to collect her from the airport. I told her to request a rideshare. Then I got on my flight home solo. Now her relatives claim I deserted her in a foreign land, but she literally vanished during our honeymoon. Am I the jerk?
Am I the asshole for calling the police on my wife during our son's birthday party? Last weekend was my son's 8th birthday. Our house was packed. Family, friends, kids everywhere. Everything seemed perfect until my son ran up to me crying and said, "Dad, Mommy says I have another dad." I laughed at first. I thought he misunderstood something. Then he repeated it. He said my wife had been secretly meeting a man and telling him, "Soon you'll live with your real daddy." My heart dropped. I confronted my wife privately. She instantly denied everything, said our son was confused, and I almost believed her until the doorbell rang. A man I had never seen before was standing outside, holding a wrapped birthday present. He looked nervous. Then he said, "I'm here to meet my son." Everything stopped. My wife turned completely pale. Turns out she had been having an affair for years, and she secretly believed our son might not be mine. But it gets worse. The man said she recently contacted him, asking for money because she planned on leaving me. And then he dropped the real bomb. He had proof. DNA test results. He handed them to me. I opened the envelope, and my son wasn't biologically mine. 8 years, 8 birthdays, 8 years of lies. People were screaming. Kids were crying. My wife begged me to calm down, but then my sister pulled me aside and whispered, "There's something else." Apparently my wife had already emptied our savings account that morning. Over $120,000 gone. She planned to disappear after the party. She wanted one final happy family memory before leaving. I snapped. I called the police immediately. My wife started screaming that I was ruining our son's birthday. Then the police searched her car and found packed suitcases, fake passports, and cash. She was arrested in front of everyone. But then my son started crying and begging the police not to take his mom. That completely broke me. Now my family says I traumatized my son forever and should have handled it privately. But she lied to me for 8 years, stole our money, and was about to disappear with my child. Am I the asshole?
To for telling my daughter she needs to get over her jealousy, and it is her own fault her life is the way it is. This has been an ongoing issue, and I need some outside opinions with my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter is working as a waitress ever since she dropped out of college. She wasn't going to classes and she GPA plummeted. The university kicked her out. Due to this, she doesn't have much money to do anything. My other daughter is graduating and just got a job offer to a good company. I will call the oldest Madison and the younger, Becky. Becky is going to make good money starting her job and doesn't have any loans. She got a full ride to her college. Madison is in debt and struggling, and this is where the help is issues stem from. She believes she should be going better than Becky since she is older. I have tried over and over to help her, but she has turned bitter about anything that Becky achieves. Becky told us she planned on going to Iceland in the fall. It was a quick conversation, but in the car ride home, Madison went off. She was pissed that she gets to do all this cool stuff and that it wasn't fair. She started to insult Becky, and that is when I had enough. I told her she needs to get over jealousy, and the reason her life is the way it is her own fault. We got into an argument and she is pissed. My wife thinks I went too far, but I think she need to hear it.
AETA for kicking my sister out after she tried to kidnap my daughter. I, 27M, have been married to my wife, 26F, for 4 years, and we have a 5-year-old daughter together. My younger sister, 24F, moved in with us 8 months ago after she lost her job and got evicted. She promised it would only be temporary. At first, I felt bad for her. She was helping around the house, babysitting sometimes, and my daughter absolutely adored her. Then things started getting weird. My daughter began calling my sister Mommy by accident. At first I thought it was harmless, until my daughter told me my sister had been saying things like, "If Mommy and Daddy ever leave, I'll take care of you forever." That immediately made me uncomfortable. I confronted my sister, and she laughed it off, saying she was just joking. My wife thought I was overreacting. Then 2 weeks ago, my daughter's teacher called us. She said my sister had shown up at school trying to pick up my daughter. She wasn't on the approved pickup list. Thankfully, the school refused. When I confronted my sister, she completely broke down crying. She admitted she had become attached to my daughter because she can't have children of her own. I felt terrible for her. But then it got worse. Last weekend, my wife took our daughter to visit her parents. I stayed home because I had work. While I was in my office, I noticed my sister loading suitcases into her car. I asked what she was doing. She froze. Then I noticed my daughter's passport in her bag. My heart dropped. I asked why she had my daughter's passport. She started crying hysterically and admitted she planned to take my daughter when my wife brought her home because she believed we didn't deserve her. I immediately called my wife and told her not to come home. Then I called the police. My sister was arrested in our driveway. But then my mother showed up screaming at me. Turns out she knew everything. She said my sister was mentally unstable and begged me not to ruin her life. Now half my family says I should have handled it privately because she needs help. But she was planning to take my child. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for exposing my manager in front of the entire office after she tried to steal my promotion? I work at a marketing company, and for the past 6 months, I've been leading the biggest project our team has ever had. I stayed late almost every night. I handled the client calls. I fixed the mistakes. I even trained 2 new employees, while my manager, Karen, kept saying, "Don't worry, I'll make sure leadership knows this was your work." And honestly, I believed her. Last Friday, our company had a big meeting where the CEO was announcing promotions. I was nervous because everyone on my team kept saying, "This has to be yours. You basically carried the whole project." But then the CEO stood up and said, "We want to recognize Karen for her outstanding leadership on the Anderson campaign." Karen smiled, walked to the front, and accepted the promotion. My promotion. She gave this whole speech about how she built the strategy from the ground up and personally guided the team through every challenge. And I just sat there, shaking, because everything she was saying was a lie. Then she looked straight at me and said, "Of course, I couldn't have done it without some support from the team." Some support. That's when I snapped. I stood up and said, "Actually, can we open the project dashboard?" The room went silent. Karen laughed nervously and said, "This isn't the time." But the CEO said, "No, let her speak." So I connected my laptop to the screen. I showed the task history. My name was on almost every strategy document, every client update, every late night revision. Then I opened the email thread where Karen told me, "Don't include leadership on this. I'll present it for us." And then I showed the client's final message where they specifically thanked me by name. Nobody said a word. Karen's face went completely pale. The CEO asked her to step out of the room. 10 minutes later, the meeting ended early. Now Karen has been suspended, and HR wants statements from everyone on the team. But half the office says I did the right thing. The other half says I was unprofessional and should have handled it privately because I humiliated her in front of the whole company. My coworker even told me, "You won, but you made yourself look dangerous." But I don't feel dangerous. I feel like I finally stopped letting someone take credit for my life. So, am I the asshole?
Ayata for calling the police on my family after they tried to steal my house from me. I, 29F, bought my first house last year after saving for almost a decade. For context, my parents always favored my younger sister, 25F. She got her college paid for. She got a brand new car at 18. And when she got pregnant at 22, my parents let her move back in rent-free. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs through college and paid for everything myself. Last year, I finally bought my dream home. Nothing huge, but I was proud of it. A few months ago, my sister and her boyfriend broke up. She has 2 kids now and nowhere to go. My parents started pressuring me to let her move into my house temporarily. I said no. Her boyfriend was abusive, constantly showed up drunk, and I didn't want that chaos near me. My family called me selfish. Then my parents dropped a bomb. They admitted they had already given my sister a spare key to my house. Without asking me, I was furious. I changed all the locks immediately. But it gets worse. A week later, I came home from work and found my sister already living in my house. Oh, her clothes were everywhere. Her kids were sleeping in my guest room. And my mom was cooking in my kitchen. They had used the old key before I changed every entrance lock. My mom smiled and said, "Now that they're settled, you can't kick them out." I completely lost it. I called the police. My entire family screamed at me while officers removed my sister from my house. But then my sister started crying and revealed she was pregnant again. Everyone turned on me instantly. They said I was making a pregnant mother homeless. I still refused. Then came the final twist. My neighbor later showed me security footage from earlier that week. My parents had helped move my sister in while I was at work. And my father was on camera saying, "Once she gets mail delivered there, the house is basically hers." They were literally trying to steal my house. Now my extended family says I went too far by calling the police on my own parents. But they tried taking the one thing I built completely on my own. Am I the asshole?
I ruined my own $50,000 wedding in front of 300 guests. And 10 minutes later, my groom was in handcuffs. I, 27 female, was supposed to marry my fiancé, 31 male, after 3 years together. Our wedding was insane. Luxury venue, hundreds of guests, designer dress, over $50,000 spent. Everyone kept telling me it looked like a celebrity wedding, but minutes before walking down the aisle, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a video. At first I thought it was spam. Then I pressed play, and my entire world collapsed. The video showed my fiancé in a hotel room with my own sister, and the timestamp? The night before our wedding. I wanted to throw up, but instead of confronting them privately, I decided to wait. I walked down the aisle smiling like everything was normal. My fiancé looked relieved. My sister sat in the front row crying happy tears. Then the officiant asked, "Do you take this man to be your husband?" And I said, "I don't." The entire room went silent. Then I turned to the projector screen behind us and played the video for everyone. Everyone gasped. My father nearly punched my fiancé. My sister almost fainted. And that should have been the craziest part. But then police walked into the venue. Turns out the anonymous person who sent me the video also sent evidence that my fiancé had been stealing money from his company. He was arrested in his wedding suit, and my sister's husband, who had no idea about the affair, was sitting in the front row watching everything. He immediately took off his ring and left with their kids. Now, half my family says I should have handled it privately, but they betrayed me hours before my wedding. I accidentally discovered my husband's secret second family. We'd been married for 6 years and had a 5-year-old daughter together. Last month, he told me he had to travel for work more often because his company was expanding. I believed him until I got a call from a school one afternoon asking why I never picked up my son. I told them they had the wrong number because I only have a daughter. Then the receptionist read the emergency contact name listed for the boy, and it was my husband. I drove to the school and saw him picking up another child who looked exactly like him. Then a woman walked out, kissed him, and called him her husband. I confronted him that night and found out he had been secretly married to another woman for 3 years. Neither of us knew about each other, so I contacted her, showed her everything, and we both divorced him on the same day. Now he pays child support to both families and lives alone.
My sister asked me to babysit while she went on a date with my husband. I'm 29 female, and my sister is 32. Last weekend, she called me panicking because her babysitter canceled last minute. She begged me to watch her 2 kids because she had important plans. I agreed because she sounded desperate. Around 11 p.m., her youngest got sick. I went through her bag looking for medicine and found my husband's watch. I immediately felt something was off. Then her 5-year-old casually said, "Mommy gets pretty when she goes to see Uncle Ryan." My stomach dropped. I called my husband. No answer. Then I checked his location. He was at a hotel downtown. I drove there immediately, and my sister's car was parked outside. I walked into the lobby and saw them kissing near the elevator. They both looked completely shocked. My sister started crying. My husband kept saying, "It's not what it looks like." I laughed and said, "You made me babysit your kids so you could cheat with my husband." I left. The next morning, both of them begged me not to tell the family. So I posted the hotel security photo in our family group chat. Now everyone knows.
I found deleted texts between my husband and my sister. I'm a 27-year-old woman, and my younger sister has always copied everything I do. My clothes, my hobbies, even my friends. I ignored it because she was my little sister. Then I got married. My husband and I had been together for 6 years. Everything seemed perfect, until I noticed he started acting weird around family events. He would suddenly volunteer to drive my sister home. They laughed at inside jokes I didn't understand. And one night, I checked our shared iPad and saw hundreds of deleted messages between him and my sister. They had been secretly hooking up for 8 months. I confronted both of them during my parents' anniversary dinner. My sister laughed and said, "He was bored of you anyway." My husband stood there silent. Then karma hit instantly. Her actual boyfriend walked into the restaurant because he wanted to surprise her and heard everything. He dumped a drink on both of them, threw her apartment key on the table, and walked out. Then my husband's boss, who was also eating there, watched the entire scene. Apparently my husband had lied to leave work early for these hookups. He got fired 2 days later. My sister got dumped. My husband moved into a motel. And now both of them keep texting me saying I ruined their lives. Did I ruin their lives? Or did they ruin their own?
My mom married my ex-boyfriend and invited me to the wedding. I dated my boyfriend for 3 years. Then one day he randomly dumped me and completely disappeared. I was heartbroken, but eventually moved on. 8 months later, my mom told me she had big news. She invited me to dinner and introduced me to her new fiancé. It was my ex-boyfriend. I thought it was some sick joke, but they were completely serious. My mom said, "Age is just a number," and my ex said, "You should be happy for us." Then they invited me to their wedding, so I actually showed up. And during the ceremony, the officiant asked if anyone objected. I stood up and played voicemails of my ex begging me to take him back from 2 weeks earlier. Turns out he was secretly seeing both of us. My mom slapped him. The wedding got canceled, and now my family says I ruined her happiness. Would you have stayed quiet?
My sister asked me to babysit while she went on a date with my husband. I'm 29 female, and my sister is 32. Last weekend, she called me panicking because her babysitter canceled last minute. She begged me to watch her 2 kids because she had important plans. I agreed because she sounded desperate. Around 11 p.m., her youngest got sick. I went through her bag looking for medicine and found my husband's watch. I immediately felt something was off. Then her 5-year-old casually said, "Mommy gets pretty when she goes to see Uncle Ryan." My stomach dropped. I called my husband. No answer. Then I checked his location. He was at a hotel downtown. I drove there immediately, and my sister's car was parked outside. I walked into the lobby and saw them kissing near the elevator. They both looked completely shocked. My sister started crying. My husband kept saying, "It's not what it looks like." I laughed and said, "You made me babysit your kids so you could cheat with my husband." I left. The next morning, both of them begged me not to tell the family. So I posted the hotel security photo in our family group chat. Now everyone knows.
Am I the asshole for exposing my manager in front of the entire office after she tried to steal my promotion? I work at a marketing company, and for the past 6 months, I've been leading the biggest project our team has ever had. I stayed late almost every night. I handled the client calls. I fixed the mistakes. I even trained 2 new employees, while my manager, Karen, kept saying, "Don't worry, I'll make sure leadership knows this was your work." And honestly, I believed her. Last Friday, our company had a big meeting where the CEO was announcing promotions. I was nervous because everyone on my team kept saying, "This has to be yours. You basically carried the whole project." But then the CEO stood up and said, "We want to recognize Karen for her outstanding leadership on the Anderson campaign." Karen smiled, walked to the front, and accepted the promotion. My promotion. She gave this whole speech about how she built the strategy from the ground up and personally guided the team through every challenge. And I just sat there, shaking, because everything she was saying was a lie. Then she looked straight at me and said, "Of course, I couldn't have done it without some support from the team." Some support. That's when I snapped. I stood up and said, "Actually, can we open the project dashboard?" The room went silent. Karen laughed nervously and said, "This isn't the time." But the CEO said, "No, let her speak." So I connected my laptop to the screen. I showed the task history. My name was on almost every strategy document, every client update, every late night revision. Then I opened the email thread where Karen told me, "Don't include leadership on this. I'll present it for us." And then I showed the client's final message where they specifically thanked me by name. Nobody said a word. Karen's face went completely pale. The CEO asked her to step out of the room. 10 minutes later, the meeting ended early. Now Karen has been suspended, and HR wants statements from everyone on the team. But half the office says I did the right thing. The other half says I was unprofessional and should have handled it privately because I humiliated her in front of the whole company. My coworker even told me, "You won, but you made yourself look dangerous." But I don't feel dangerous. I feel like I finally stopped letting someone take credit for my life. So, am I the asshole?
My husband missed our daughter's funeral because he was on vacation with his mistress. When our 6-year-old daughter died in a car accident, my entire world collapsed. The funeral was scheduled 3 days later. Family flew in, friends came, everyone waited for my husband. He never showed up. He wouldn't answer calls, wouldn't answer texts, nothing. Hours later, I got tagged in a random Instagram post. A woman had posted beach photos from Miami, and in the background was my husband, holding her hand, while our daughter was being buried. When he finally came home, he said, I couldn't handle the grief. But his mistress exposed him online after finding out why he left. She dumped him, his family disowned him, and now he sends me messages saying, can we be a family again?